Full people, I hope you are all fantastic. It's Friday. We made it. Look, we are all heroes. Well, in our own minds we are. But we made it. It's Friday. And we're going to get straight into the meat and potatoes. Now, Steve Goncalves has come out. He has spoken. And if you check the video description, now Jules, she has done a video that basically segments that video and covers some important things, some important pointers within the interview that he took. And I think it's worth a watch. But look, what I kind of took from it, and it's not all I took from it, but what I took from it is the fact that he doesn't seem to be sure. And what I will say about Steve Goncalves is, look, this guy is as gracious as they come. He is. Do you know what I mean? You've got to think what that guy's lost, what he has been through, and the fact that he can sit there and do an interview. And I know some people have got some thoughts and feelings about Steve from before and when he was coming out. But look, under the circumstances, I'm telling you now, I'd have been 10 times worse than him. I'd have been turning Moscow, Idaho upside down. And some of the questions he had earlier on are certainly warranted. But look, the take home I got from it was that this guy is an advocate for getting to the truth, the actual truth. Do you know what I mean? And he's not certain. And what I will say is Steve Goncalves knows a lot more than what we do. Now, I've got some notes here because I'm going to go through these in a second, because it's important to understand that obviously these guys are the victims' families. So they will be privy to a lot more than what we are. Now, he alluded to the fact that potentially he has spoken, or maybe a representative of his has spoken to the survivors, material witnesses. And so, yeah, so he's going to have a lot more information than what we do. And he kind of says, look, if this is the guy, then he deserves to go through the process and for the process to take care of it. There was a little bit of a contradictory situation there, which I felt with regards to the grand jury, because Steve had stated that he had said that we need to slow down. There is no rush. This needs to be done right. And again, if this is a guy, to make sure, kind of, if you've got, get all your ducks in a row, because you don't want to fuck up. And as a side note, if you do not know who Ken Maines is, go over to Ken Maine's channel, because he talks about a case. I'm not going to ruin it for you, but I'll put the link in description as well, so you can head over there. That's, I believe, I can't remember what his channel. I think it's Unsolved No More, perhaps. Might have got that wrong, but Ken Maines. And he talks specifically about a case that goes completely tits up because law enforcement make a huge mistake. And there are... Go and watch it. Not now. Me first. I'm more important. But look, he said slow down. And it didn't get slowed down, did it? By the grand jury situation, it kind of leapfrogged over an important element of this case. And that is a situation where everybody can sit down, go through their evidence, and be able to have an open discussion about what's been found and what's your argument against it. And I think for everyone, that should be what you want to happen. Even if you have in your head convicted Brian Kohberger, which we're going to go through exactly why you have in a second. What if, and hear me out, what if he's not? What if he's not the guy? Or what if, like I said, he's part of a bigger picture, he's just a small cog in a big machine, and there are other moving parts, and it still leaves people at risk. They constantly push the fact that the witnesses need to be protected. Protected from who? I said this, I think yesterday. If the person who did this was a situation that people... hold on, I know there's crazy people out there. You've got the people who are die-hard Kohberger fans, irrelevant of what he's done. So perhaps that's who they're being protected from. But ultimately, there's going to be a very, very small amount of people who feel that there's retribution deserved on those who brings this or helps to bring this situation to a conclusion. And this is where the problem with the gag order comes in, and this kind of cloak and dagger stuff, because people don't trust the system when this happens. I don't trust it because it makes them look dodgy. You know, if all the cards were laid out on the table, there'd be no reason to protect people, because everybody would be able to see what is going on and be happy that it is being dealt with appropriately. But anyway, so these here, I wrote down something because I thought, why do people who don't have all of the facts, you've got these two camps. You've got the people who think Brian Kohberger is innocent or potentially involved but may not have done the crime. And then you've got people who have considered this case a slam dunk. They've got him. So point number one, the sheath. Many people, and I feel that the sheath is the thing that people get hung up on. They believe that this sheath has got his DNA on it, and that means that he is guilty. But what I'll challenge you people is to find me where it says that this knife sheath belongs to the murder weapon. Has any documentation stated that they have the knife sheath that belongs to the murder weapon, or just that they have a leather knife sheath with trace DNA on it that took 2 departments and a procedure that's in its infancy in order to find a DNA match? And even that had to be paired with going to Brian Kohberger's parents and rummaging through a bin to find his father's DNA, to then do a comparison between his father's DNA and the DNA that was found on the knife sheath that then gave the match. So that's the main thing that people are getting hung up on. If he didn't do this, if he is not the killer, then why would there be a knife sheath with his DNA in that property? And that's not enough. That's not enough to, beyond reasonable doubt, say because that was there, he definitely did the crime itself. Now, what do we know? We know that Brian Kohberger, from what we've been told, had come into this area around this property around 12 times. But again, we also know that this house was frequented by people from all over the place to have parties, and it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Brian Kohberger had, at times, been involved with going to this property. And I ain't even getting into the narcotic situation. Could he have been buying from there? Could he have been involved with, or have a friend who was buying from there, or anything like that? But these are all not out of the realms of possibility. But my point stands. There is nothing that states that they have the knife sheath belonging to the murder weapon. That is an assumption based on information. The next point was about the DNA being hidden. When he was arrested, people get hung up on the fact that he was segregating its DNA and taking it out of the bin, and he was hiding it in his fucking neighbour's bin. In the next nearest bin to him. That is the worst hiding place in the world. Are you really telling me that this guy gets up in the night, he is of the mindset, I've got to hide my DNA, I've got to get it out of this bin, I've got to segregate it into little baggies, sort it all out, and get it out of here, because I've killed some people, and if the police come here, they're going to be looking for my DNA, and that's why I'm doing it. And where's the best place to hide it? Not in my bin, in that one. Are you fucking serious? Anyway, I think I've said enough on that. The next point was his car. His car. He drives a white 2015 Hyundai Elantra, which just happened to be very similar to the one that law enforcement put out that they were looking for. Now, the clips that we have seen of a white Hyundai Elantra in the area, the side profile doesn't match accurately the side profile of a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra. And that's just what I've done videos before that has done a side profile on that and looked at them, and they look different. Could just be the angle, could be variables in the quality of the video, but when you put them next to each other, they don't look the same. And they were looking for a 2011 to 2013. His was a 2015. If I remember rightly, they would have been looking into Brian Koberger and doing all this DNA and all this cloak and dagger stuff in the background, while still leaving it public that they were looking for a 2011 to 2013 white Hyundai Elantra, and they were interested in speaking to the occupants of said vehicle. Why would they just not have said we're looking for a 2015? And before people turn around and say, but they wouldn't want to alert the person who did this, again, are you fucking kidding me? If someone who was, say Brian Koberger was driving a white Hyundai Elantra and this murder had been done and he'd done it, and the police say they're looking for a white Hyundai Elantra 2011 to 2013, he's not going to think, well, they're not looking for me then because mine's a 2015. He's going to be thinking, fuck, they're looking for a white Hyundai Elantra. They just haven't quite yet figured what year it is, but that's just a matter of time. He's not a fucking idiot. He's got bushy eyebrows. I think that was the turning point in the investigation when, you know, it turns out that despite the fact that this was not mentioned in the conversation thread from early on, when these, you know, the survivors of this attack were talking to the sorority sisters on Snapchat, they didn't mention that anyone had been seen. But later on it came out that someone all dressed in black, bushy eyebrows. Then you look at Brian Koberger and, you know, his eyes are a little bit bushy. So, you know, that was, for a lot of people, that was it. What else did I put here? He'd been to Moscow, Idaho late at night, which we've said, and we've kind of covered that. I'm sure he's not the only person who had gone into Moscow, Idaho late at night, and that would be an argument. You can't prove that him going... He tickled someone once. We had a woman come forward who he'd, you know, been out on a Tinder date with, whatever, and she'd let him in, comfortable enough to let him in to the property to watch a film or whatever it was, but then he acted weird because he tickled her. And to be fair, that's the only real female who has come forward and has said anything truly negative. Like, I'm going to get onto the harsh grader situation. What, he gave a toss about his school, you know, his students. He wanted them to actually do well. He took the time to go through the paperwork and didn't just make it about this process of getting his job done. You know, it shows that he actually gave a toss. He looks dodgy. I've got looks dodgy. A lot of people said it's him because he looks dodgy. What do I look dodgy? Because I hope there's never any murders around here, because you lot will stitch me right up. What else did I put? He's smart but socially awkward. Smart but socially awkward. That's another thing that a lot of people have said. Look, he's smart. He's not street. He's not street smart. He's book smart. So that's why he's guilty. He's a bit socially awkward. You can tell. And socially awkward people, normally the people who do this sort of thing, you got to watch them. And most importantly, law enforcement say it's him. If law enforcement say so, it's definitely him. Why would we believe that the FBI can make a mistake? Why would Moscow, Idaho Police Department make a mistake? And again, to answer that question more accurately, I will tell you once again to go into the description of this video, head over to Ken Maine's channel, and he will explain in that video exactly why you cannot 100% take the FBI and Moscow Police Department's word for what is actually going on in the Idaho 4 case and how it can be wrong. And as I've said multiple times, we also have cases just like the Sean Doherty case that led law enforcement to believe that a 12-year-old boy unalived himself while having his hands both tied tightly by his side. Where do you sit? And whatever camp you're in, why are you there? Did it? Didn't do it? Involved in it? What's your evidence? What was the straw that broke the camel's back for you? And I'll catch you all in the next one.